Okay, am I live? I'm going to start with a sound check, and I organize this stream with little banners here. So I have it on my phone, but I don't see anything yet. Give me a brief moment, everybody, while I wait to make sure that this is all working properly. Okay, I think I'm good. Take this little earplug out. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay. So like I mentioned, I'm going to organize all of this with these little banners I have set up. So yes, I haven't posted on YouTube in a while, so it's good to be back. I'm not going to go into too much details, but life happens. Technical details regarding my apartment, my equipment, just made it really impossible. So I'm hoping that using this setup will make it easier for me to do more content on YouTube. We'll see. I've said that a million times in the past, so not sure if it'll work. I do want to address the elephant in the room, which is, yes, I do have a healthy little beard going on here. I changed the icon, the channel icon for my channel to address that. And there's no specific reason why I did that. I just wanted, one day was like, I'm tired of shaving. So I stopped and then just kept going and going and going. It's getting a little unruly now. I've had it trimmed a couple times. I'm trying to decide, do I want to just keep it a little bit short, mid-length? I really want to go for it and try to make it really long. I feel that the color pattern sort of befits my status as a dad of 2 kids. And so anyway, I'm not sure what you all think of it, but it's probably going to be here. It's probably going to be here to stay. We'll see. Another nice thing is it hides double chins. I haven't gained a ton of weight since my daughter was born. I've kind of been sort of staying even at around a little bit under 200 pounds, but I am getting up there, so yeah, I'm going to experiment with the comment showing things. I think if I click here, it'll show a comment. Yes, cool. Yes, just like Perrin from Wheel of Time. When I was reading Wheel of Time, I always thought that part of the story was cool. I mean, Perrin growing a beard and he was always scratching it and stuff. And for many years, I resisted growing it because it would get so scratchy and my skin would get irritated. But I figured out the magic way to prevent that from happening. So now I actually kind of like it. So I am going to jump into the next section, which is talking about this wuxia novel that I translated. So I translated a novel called Blood Parrot, which I can share. Let's see here. Bear with me here while I share the landing page here. This is the landing page. There's a link in the video description, and which I think you can access now, or when the recording of the live stream goes up, I'll adjust the description to make sure the link is in there. This is a classic wuxia novel, but it has it's a wuxia horror novel, and it has some sort of xianxia, which is like the high fantasy cultivation stuff. It has some flair of that, but it is not a cultivation novel. So let's make that clear from the very beginning. I'll read the description really here that you can see on the screen. It says, ghosts don't have blood, but demons do. 100,000 drops of demon blood were once combined to create a blood parrot. The parrot descends into the human world once every 7 years, whereupon it grants 3 wishes. 7 years have passed since it last appeared. Blood Parrot is a wuxia horror novel by Gulong. It tells the story of Wang Feng, a dying hero who gets sucked into a web of intrigue and death in Peaceful Township. 7 years ago, a massive treasure heist became the talk of South China. To this day, the case is unsolved. Wrapped up in the mystery is the legend of the Blood Parrot, a creature from the netherworld that is said to grant 3 wishes. What is the Blood Parrot? What are the Blood Servants? Who is the mastermind behind the heist? Mysteries build upon mysteries, and bodies continue to pile up. Wang Feng might not give a damn about living, but that doesn't mean he wants to throw his life away for nothing. Will he survive this incident and learn the truth about the heist and the Blood Parrot? I do want to mention that there's a little warning here. It is a horror novel, and there are some stuff that some people might find disturbing. I list them all here. Please make sure to check that out before you download it. I don't want you to download it and then get upset or offended or freaked out by some of the content. This is available totally for free. You just click here, you click get my book. It does ask for your email address because it will email you a link, but you don't have to sign up for anything. You can sign up for my email list if you would like, but you don't need to do that. I encourage you to do that if you aren't already, because this is the main way that I share my new releases. But you don't have to sign up. Just put in your name and address, and then you can get it on PDF or Kindle or whatever format you prefer. But I do want to talk really quickly about why I translated this novel, because I released it a few months ago, but because of the circumstances, I wasn't able to explain why I did it. I didn't just randomly decide to translate a new novel. I am actually releasing a new web novel, a licensed web novel translation on Wuxia World right now. It is from the author Argun, who is the author of I Shall Seal the Heavens and A Will Eternal, two of my other previous really popular translations. Wuxia World was able to license his latest novel. There is another version of this translation that's machine translated. Mine is 100% by hand. I think the quality is way better than the other one that's available. What I'm going to do now is I'll show you really quickly. So if we go to Wuxia World here, you can scroll down. You can see that this novel is currently in the sneak peek section, which means you have to be a champion or a VIP, I think, to be able to read it now. But it's going to be released publicly in just a few days. So right now there are, let's see here, 22 chapters live. We're going to get up to roughly about chapter 30, I think, and then we're going to have a big release on the 15th of a bunch of chapters going all the way up to chapter 50. So I'm very excited about that. Getting back to why I wanted to do Blood Parrot, let me pull Blood Parrot up again. So I knew that this other translation was coming. I've been in the process of waiting for the legal side to finish on the Wuxia World translation for about 8 months. That's going back to late 2022. So when I found out that I was likely going to be picking up this new translation, this new Argun translation, it had already been quite a while, I think 2 years since I had done any translating, like serious translating. And I was kind of worried maybe I'd lost my mojo, so to speak. I have, ever since moving from China back to the United States, I am no longer in that environment where Chinese is all around me. Granted, my wife speaks Chinese and we do speak Chinese a little bit in the house and my kids are learning and that kind of thing, but it had been a long time since I was really in a Chinese environment and I hadn't done any translating, and I was thinking, man, what if it's a lot harder than I remember it being? So I was thinking, hey, let's go back to my roots, the same thing I did many, many years ago leading up to I Shall Seal the Heavens, and that was I was translating classic wuxia novels. This novel, Blood Parrot, has been on my radar for a long time. Many years ago, when I was going through all of the Gulong wuxia novels, and incidentally, just so you know, in case you aren't familiar already, Gulong was a very famous wuxia novelist, but he died something like 20 years ago. So all of his novels are, or no, sorry, we're in 2020 now. I guess, 40 years ago, something like that. He died, I think, in the 80s. Sorry, I'm not an expert on his life. In any case, he has a ton of novels. They're all, from quite a few many years ago. So anyway, I saw this novel and many years ago and had always been intrigued by the title and I had read a little bit of it. So I decided, why not pick up this novel to translate, to warm up, so to speak, get back into the feel and the routine of translating in preparation for this new Argun translation on Wuxia World. I thought that this Blood Parrot novel would be pretty easy and quick. It's only 16 chapters, and back in the day when I was, in the peak of my novel translating, the web novel translating years, I could easily translate 15 or 20 chapters, maybe even more, of a web novel in a week easily. So I was thinking, okay, 16 chapters, maybe it'll take me a week, maybe 2 weeks. I was thinking, I don't need, since it's so short, I don't want to bother reading ahead in the novel. I'll just translate it as I go. So all of that turned out to be a mistake. Basically, let me get a drink here. Basically, the chapters are way longer than web novel chapters. Like many of them are something like 4 or 5 times as long as a web novel chapter. And also the not reading ahead, as you know, I knew this years ago. I should have trusted my instincts, but basically translating as you go is very difficult and problematic because you're always going to find out the meanings of different things later on, whether it's the plot, the names of the characters, their martial arts techniques, or whatever. You might think you understand what it means at face value when you first encounter it. Then later on, you're going to find out some wordplay or some explanation that clarifies what it's supposed to mean. And that happened in this one. There were terms that I went back and changed after reaching chapter 15 or 16, had to go back and change everything, the whole translation. And then the length of the chapters, just that alone, made it so this translation took way, way longer than I thought. But in any case, it is now available for free, so please do check that out. I'm going to jump up here really quickly to check some comments. So I see all comments here. I've not abandoned my channel. Yeah, last video a year ago. Thank you for the compliment, Jacob. So let's jump into the next section that I have planned here, which is I would like to read what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a passage from the translation, and then I'm going to show you that very same scene in the movie version, because there is a movie version of this novel. So first, let's read the passage here, and let's see here. I have it set up right here. So I'm gonna, this is a passage from, see, that view doesn't look very good. Just, no. Okay, that's basically the same either way. Okay, so this is from the first chapter of Blood Parrot. It's not exactly a huge spoiler, so don't worry. This is all within the first chapter. So, but this is starting a new section. It says, "It was late in the night and there were no pedestrians about. All the lights were out. The bright sky had turned very dark. There was no moon and there were no stars. The black of night covered all the lands. Squinting and stumbling, Wang Feng walked and walked, unsure of exactly where he was. Nor did he care where he was. It didn't matter. The night sky looked gloomy and sinister. The wind was cold. Eventually, as he trudged through the rolling hills, he came across an abandoned tomb. All of a sudden, something flew out of the tomb, a bird. It had a bell around its neck, a bell that tinkled in a very strange way. It sounded like it could snatch one's soul away. Wang Feng lurched forward to grab the bird, but it flew past him. The tinkle of the bell faded into the distance. An old man appeared at the entrance of the tomb. He had messy white hair, was short and emaciated, and wore white garments. He looked so weak that it seemed like the slightest breeze might blow him away. At the same time, one had to wonder if he'd been carried here by a breeze. Truth be told, Wang Feng had no idea how he'd arrived. After all, the man appeared at the entrance of a tomb. In fact, he was standing in a coffin. It was a brand new coffin, still decorated with gold and pearls, without a corpse inside of it, because how could a corpse stand up? Wang Feng rubbed his eyes. He was trying to decide if he was hallucinating or not. He wasn't hallucinating. There really was a white-haired old man standing in front of him in a coffin. Wang Feng laughed. He wasn't scared at all, and he couldn't hold back from asking, "Are you a ghost?" The old man shook his head. "You're alive?" Wang Feng asked. The old man shook his head again. "What are you?" "I'm dead," the old man replied. "You're dead, but you're not a ghost?" "I only just died and haven't had time to turn into a ghost yet." "You just died just now?" "Someone killed me." "Who?" "You." So I'm going to stop there because I love that passage from the novel. And now let's jump into the movie version. So I'm going to go back to Blood Parrot. I have all the tabs lined up. So the novel was made into a movie in 1981. It's a Shaw Brothers movie. So for those of you who are not familiar, Shaw Brothers Studios put out massive amounts of classic wuxia movies. Now, again, this is the 80s, so don't expect amazing CGI. For me personally, as I've gotten older, I come to like the old realistic effects with real martial arts and, you know, maybe some wire work and kind of not that great special effects, but I kind of like those more nowadays. In any case, I'll read the description to you. The movie is called Bloody Parrot, which is basically just a bad translation. When I was first looking at the novel before I knew what it was about, I also assumed it was Bloody Parrot, but it's not Bloody Parrot. The titular parrot in the novel is a parrot made from blood. So it is a blood parrot. It's not a parrot that is bloody. In any case, the movie description says an expert swordsman is suspected of being the thief of a treasure sent to the emperor. The swordsman, who has nothing to do with the theft, investigates and is led on the trail of the supernatural bloody parrot. This leads to the parrot brothel and the star prostitute who walks around half naked. Strange things happen, including a demonic possession, witches casting poison spells, disgusting autopsies, and numerous sword fights. Then a dead constable turns into a vampire. This is all in the first 30 minutes. So that description matches the novel to a large degree. There is a prostitute who's one of the main characters, and it's not that she walks around half naked. She literally has clothes on one half of her body and no clothes on the other half of her body. This is depicted in the movie Bloody Parrot, so if you are underage, I cannot endorse you watching this movie. It is definitely rated R. In any case, in the novel, there are all the things it mentions here, witches casting poison spells, and trust me, in the novel, they are disgusting. You have to read it to understand what I'm talking about. There are these autopsies, sword fights. There's when you say vampire, it's the Chinese style hopping vampire, kind of jiangshi. So it's the kind that hops around like this, that kind of vampire. This movie is really, really hard to get. You can see that it's listed here on Amazon, but it's right here. It says only 2 left in stock. I honestly don't know if this is it's in NTSC format. I don't even know if this is a legit seller or if it's a scam. And then they do have it on DVD, but it's listed as currently unavailable. If you go to YouTube and type in Bloody Parrot, you can find the entire movie on YouTube, but it's in Chinese and there are no subtitles. So if it's kind of fun if you read the book, then watch the movie, you'll know everything that's happening and you kind of see a lot of the stuff from the book in the movie. But the movie deviates from the book probably about, I think, a quarter of the way, maybe halfway through. It starts getting further and farther apart from what happens in the book until the very ending of the movie is basically nothing like the book. From what I could tell, I didn't watch the whole movie, the entire thing. I just kind of, I clicked through and skimmed the entire thing. So in any case, so I'm going to show you a scene from the movie. I actually downloaded it and I'm going to show it right here. So let's see here. So this is the intro. I'm gonna skip ahead a few minutes. Here we go. I'm gonna watch about a minute of the movie. This is the scene I just read.
你是鬼还是人？我是个将死的人，还没有变成鬼。是谁害你的？是你。
So it ends. That's the dialogue. There is basically the same dialogue I just read, where he says, "You know, what are you?" He said, "I'm dead. I just got killed. Who killed you?" And then he said, "You did." There's a comment, or I'll get to the comments in a second. Blood Parrot, it's a really cool wuxia novel. I really enjoyed translating it, and it's a great mystery. I cannot reveal any, I don't want to spoil it at all. Suffice it to say, like many Gulong novels, it has some really interesting characters, a lot of very dramatic twists. I would challenge you to try to predict how you think it's going to end. I doubt you could predict it because it is really crazy ending, and everything doesn't get, the truth of the whole mystery is not resolved until the very end. So you have to read it to check it out. Again, the link is in the description and it is free. Also, please do check out the new Argon translation as well. I'm planning to do a live stream on the 15th when we do this big mass release, and it's available to the public. So I'm going to answer a couple questions that I saw in the comments, and then I'm going to end the video. We're already getting on about 20 minutes here. Let's see here. So have you ever thought about turning your previous translations into books? I think, I assume what you mean is printed books, I think is what you mean. If that's the question, I have thought about doing that, but unfortunately I don't have the license to do that. It's not legal. So when I was in China, I actually did create a printed version of my translation, Seven Killers. I had a friend, in fact, you might, those of you who are Wuxia World fans might remember the translator of, what was it called? Lord of All Realms, I think. Beerblade, he was colloquially called. He's a personal friend of mine in China, and he introduced me to a guy who owns a factory that makes books. So I actually did print a version of Seven Killers, but that was, geez, 10 or more years ago, and I don't have any copies left. I have a couple left in China, but we haven't been back since the pandemic. For the other ones, it wouldn't be possible for me to make legitimate printed copies, like not even a Kickstarter. I would feel uncomfortable about doing that outside of making personal copies for myself. This question says, would you put this novel in your top 5 wuxia novels? That is a good question. I would say I don't think so. I really like this one. It's very cool, but some of the other ones that I mentioned before have some characters that I am personally drawn to very deeply. There is some really cool stuff in this novel, but the main character does not appeal to me as much. He is poisoned and dying. Because of that, he doesn't fear death because he knows that he doesn't really care. Like if he dies, then he's fine with that because he's going to die anyway, which is kind of a cool thing in the novel because he will do martial arts moves that are so shocking to his opponents that they get tripped up because they know that like they can tell that they'll both end up killing each other if they proceed with a fight. And because Wang Feng doesn't care, the opponent has to give up because the opponent knows that they will also die. But what this story lacks that some of the other stories have is a super strong friendship, brotherhood kind of plot element, which is fine. Like I think if every novel had that, it wouldn't be very special. Some of the reason I like some of the other ones, such as Heroes Shed No Tears and whatnot, is because of that element. And this novel doesn't have that. So definitely more on the horror side and the fantastic side. And incidentally, I should also mention that this novel, only the first few chapters were written by Gulong, and then the rest was ghost written by another author. That author then took this novel and created 4 more to create sort of a series. I don't think they're interconnected in terms of the plot, but they're all horror themed. So I think it was successful enough to lead to sort of a series of books. Let me look back over the comments here. This is, do you think cultivators in the novels behave more like the Sith in Star Wars? I guess I never thought of it that way. There's so much comparison between Star Wars and wuxia xianxia that I don't know. I kind of, whenever it gets into that subject, I get more interested in talking about why Star Wars is not like wuxia xianxia than how much it is. I'm just gonna highlight this comment because I'm sorry I don't quite understand what this means. I don't know what the rumbling is. I don't get that reference. Do you think cultivators would stand a chance against the rumbling? Is that a show or a comic or something? Sorry, I'm unfamiliar. So Agung, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm assuming it's Agung or Agung. Asks, how is your current translating speed compared to your previous peak? Is it more or less the same now? When I first started doing the translation of Beyond the Timescape, it was slower, which is kind of, that makes sense. At this point, I've gotten into my groove and I'm at, I would say, roughly the same speed as I was before. So it took me a month or two to catch up. And incidentally, I should also mention that thanks to RWX from Wuxia World, who got this deal going, he made sure that, and this is even as he was leaving Wuxia World, he kind of made sure that this translation happened. And so because of that, I was actually able to start translating the novel even before the final deal was signed between the two companies, the licensing deal. And so because of that, I actually have quite a healthy stockpile of chapters. Now they're not ready for release because I have a process that I go through to make sure they're ready for release. I have early readers read them, then I edit them. and then I have them proofread, and then I do a final pass. I do multiple passes, so my stockpile isn't ready to release yet, but I do have a big chunk already translated, and I'm quite a bit ahead of where it is releasing on Wuxia World. And so because of that, I've definitely been able to get into my rhythm, and you know, I would say pretty much back at the same speed. Do you plan on translating other classic wuxia novels for fun or practice in the future? I would definitely like to, because I love those novels. The biggest problem is that they do take a lot of time. So for Blood Parrot, like I said, I'd have to go back and check my records. I think it took me 2 months to translate. And that wasn't full time necessarily, but I, you know, don't make any money off of that. And I need to make money. I have a family to feed. I have 2 kids. I have rent to pay, bills to pay. So spending a huge chunk of time on a translation that doesn't bring any income is very difficult. I can do it in off hours, but right now, since my main work is now translating, since I'm back into doing a web novel, I won't be able to do something like that until much later on down the line, when probably after I'm finished with the translation, taking a break or something, I might do a classic wuxia just for fun. How difficult is translating Blood Parrot compared to I Shall Still the Heavens and A Will Eternal? It is actually roughly the same, to be honest, if not a little bit easier. The level of Chinese is very similar. It's a notch below like really hard Chinese. For example, Jinyo novels. I've never tried to translate a Jinyo novel, but I know that they're much more difficult than Gulong. I would say the writing level is about the same. In some ways, it's easier to do this kind of translation, Blood Parrot, because, you know, I'm going to share it on the screen since nobody needs to be staring at my face this entire time. Here we go. So I'll go to this tab and go back to the landing page. There we go. It's in some ways easier to translate this novel because it's so short. With the novels like the Argon novels, I Shall Still the Heavens, A Will Eternal, Beyond the Timescape, he oftentimes goes dozens or hundreds of chapters before explaining certain things, names, techniques, prophecies, those kind of things. So that makes it difficult. With Argon novels, I absolutely have to read ahead. Even though I read fairly slowly in Chinese, I am reading ahead of where I'm translating, and that's kind of necessary. So because of that, even though it took a little bit longer to translate Blood Parrot while I was simply reading ahead, it was actually a little bit easier. Oh, I didn't realize that. I watched Attack on Titan up to, I think, season 2 or 3, and then I decided I was going to not watch it until it was released. And then a few years ago, when I saw the final season was coming out, I was really excited. And then the final season came out, and then like the final season came out. And so right now I'm just waiting until it's legitimately 100% completely out. Then I will watch it. So I don't know much details beyond the first season or 2. Okay, think I've got to the end of the comments that I can see, and we're already at 30 minutes. I didn't realize it was going to go this long, so I think I'm going to call it a day. This is a nice little test. Please stay tuned for the June 15th mass release of Beyond the Timescape, and I'm going to do a live stream here. I'm going to share some of my favorite comments from Wuxia World, and also some other thing, maybe some behind the scenes stuff and whatnot. So that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and hopefully this will be the first in a series of more upcoming videos now that I'm able to kind of set up. Oh, and final thing is, if you could give me a chance, or if you could take just a minute to let me know what you thought of the quality of the video. If I upgrade to the professional version of the streaming software, I can stream at 1080p. Without upgrading, I can only do 720p. I do have my microphone here. I'm in the living room kitchen, so I think it's probably a bit echoey. I could consider trying to get a little bit more of a setup to make the sound better. But let me know what you think about the setup. And also, I see this final comment is pics of my family. I might share some of those on the live stream on 6/15 because it has been a while. My son, Baby Deathblade, who we now call Battle Boy, by the way, that's his online handle. He's super into Minecraft. He has grown like crazy. He's grown almost 2 inches just in the past year. So maybe I will share some pics with that. Okay, I've seen some comments that the quality is fine. So thank you everybody for checking the live stream out, and I will see you next time. Galtsvilla.